Today we're going to talk about object pronouns, and then we've covered them a little bit in Spanish too, but now we're going to talk about double object pronouns, which is using two pronouns in one sentence, as well as reflexive pronouns. We're going to do a little bit of an intro to that before we move on to how those pronouns interact with the commands that we just learned how to form. So to start off with our pronouns, the first set of pronouns we're going to cover are direct object pronouns. They receive the action of the verb in a sentence, and they answer the question who or what receives the action of the verb. So there's a very easy way to kind of figure out which one is the direct object in a sentence. For example, I put them on top of the desk. What do I put? Them. Whatever them is, it could be los libros, los bolígrafos, whatever you want to say. So our direct object pronouns are me, te, lo, la, nos, os, los, las. Where really lo and la mean it, but because of course in Spanish we have gender, and los and las mean them. So los pongo, I put them. Notice how the los goes in front of the verb. It goes los pongo, which really in English is flipped from I put them. It really translates to them I put. So in your notes, you'll see some examples of some sentences. Miguel publicó el artículo de opinión. He published it, meaning the op-ed article. So what did he publish? He published it. So we take el artículo and we replace it with lo and put it out in front. Yo entrevisté a la actriz. I interviewed the actress. Who did I interview? The actress. So we change it to la. I interviewed her. Put it in front. You translated the paragraph to Spanish. Tú tradujiste el párrafo a español. What did you translate? The paragraph. So you translated it to Spanish. Lo tradujiste. Distribuimos los volantes. We distributed the flyers. What did we distribute? The flyers. So we put that out in front. We replace it with los. Los distribuimos. We distributed them. And finally, yo investigué la cuestión. I investigated the issue. What did I investigate? The issue. Change it out. Put it out in front. Yo la investigué. I investigated it. Indirect objects work a little bit differently, but are somewhat related to direct objects. They answer the question to whom or for whom an action is done. So for an example, in the sentence, Rose gives her a ticket. What does Rose give? A ticket. Who does she give it to? Her. So in that sentence, the ticket is the direct object. That's what Rose is giving. Who is she giving it to? She's giving it to her, where her is the indirect object in the sentence, whoever that woman may be. In Spanish, that would look like Rosa le da un boleto. Rosa, to her, gives a ticket, where le means to her. Indirect object pronouns, like in that sentence you saw, me, te, le, nos, os, les. So Rosa gives me, Rosa me da. Rosa gives you, Rosa le te da. Rosa gives him or her, Rosa le da. Rosa gives us, Rosa nos da, and so on and so forth. So, le escribí una carta a Lola. I wrote a letter to Lola. Notice, le means to her. Escribí una carta. To her, I wrote a letter. And then after the sentence, you see it says a Lola. Putting a Lola clarifies who that le is referring to, because remember, le can mean to him, to her, or to you, as in usted. So we put them both in there to clarify who the le is referring to. So in your notes, if you see le in this sentence refers to Ricardo, le in this sentence to le donaste el dinero a la biblioteca, you donate the money to the library. What did you donate? The money. That's the direct object. Who or to what did you donate it? The library. So we complement it with le and put le out front. Nosotros les expliquemos la tarea a ellos. We explained to them the homework. Me diste los dibujos animados a mí. You gave me the cartoons. And in this sentence, the a mí is not really necessary, because if I just say me diste, it means you gave me. Putting a mí at the end puts emphasis that you gave them to me as opposed to somebody else. And finally, usted nos leo. You, sir or ma'am, read to us la entrevista, the interview, referring to a nosotros. So looking for the a in the sentence, a Ricardo, a la biblioteca, a ellos, a mí, a nosotros. Then you go back to your indirect object pronouns and find which one you want to use and stick it in front of the verb. Yo le dije, for example. Double object pronouns means that we're going to use both direct and indirect objects in a sentence. When two object pronouns are used in the same sentence in English, the direct object pronoun often appears first after the verb, and the indirect object pronoun becomes the object of a preposition. What that means, in an example, is that if we say, the waiter brings Elena the bill, what does the waiter bring? The bill. Who does she bring it to? Elena. So the bill is the direct object, and Elena is the indirect object. She is indirectly benefiting from the bill being brought. If we were going to make that a double object pronoun in English, we would say the waiter brings it to her, where it is the bill and her is Elena. And notice we add the word to because we bring things to her. To do this in Spanish, direct object pronouns and indirect object pronouns appear before the conjugated verb. And how do we place them in the sentence? They both come before the verb. So with both object pronouns, the indirect object pronoun comes first. And we're going to remember that by the acronym SIDV, which stands for subject, indirect, direct, and verb, meaning subject, indirect, object pronoun, and then your verb. So in the sentence, the waitress brought the broth to Juan and me. In English, to make it a double object sentence, we'd say the waitress brought it to us. In Spanish, we'd say la camarera trajo, the waitress brought, el caldo a mí y a Juan. What did she bring? The broth. So we replace that with lo, because that's the direct object. Who did she bring it to? Us. That's nos. So to reorder the sentence, we actually flip it around, put them before the verb, and we have la camarera nos lo trajo, or literally, the waitress to us, it brought. Just remember SIDV, subject, indirect, direct, and then verb. Subject, la camarera, indirect object pronoun, nos, who did she bring it to? That's us. What did she bring? That's your direct object pronoun, lo, it. And then the verb trajo means she brought. So SIDV. So if we were going to look at an example, they gave you the deadline. What did they give? The deadline, la fecha límite. Who did they give it to? You. Subject, indirect, direct, and verb. Ellos te la dieron. They, to you, it gave. So if we have the sentence, I gave it to you, referring to la reseña, or the review, yo te la di. I, to you, it gave. Yo te la di. You all told it to us. It refers to the truth, la verdad. So we'd say, ustedes nos la dijeron. Ustedes nos la dijeron. You all, to us, it told. Subject, indirect, direct, verb. However, if both pronouns begin with the letter L, you have to change the indirect object pronoun to se. Another way to think about it, you can't lay low, you can only say low. So the lay in this lay low needs to change to a say, and we'll look at some examples. So we can't do any of these combinations because of the double L. So what that would look like is I asked the waiter for the bill. Yo pedí la cuenta al camarero. Se la pedí. Where I asked for is pedí. It, la cuenta, al camarero, to the waiter, or from the waiter. And usually we'd put le la pedí, but here we put se la pedí, because we can't lay low, we can only say low. The la cuenta is replaced with la. Le becomes se la pedí. To him, it, I asked. So we paid it to him, referring to el dinero, or the money. Nosotros se lo pagamos. Instead of saying le lo pagamos, where le refers to him, we change le to se. Se lo pagamos. He gave them to them, where it's the flyers are what we are giving, and we are giving it to Carlos and Lola. The flyers, los volantes, replaces with los. Carlos and Lola are les, but we can't les los, so we se los dio, where se refers to Carlos and Lola. El se los dio, subject, indirect, direct, and then verb. He to them gave. The waiter served them to us. El camarero nos los sirvió. Notice you don't have to change any le lo to se lo because we just have a nos here. When a conjugated verb appears with an infinitive or or a verb in the gerund form, you can put the pronouns before the conjugated verb as always, or you can attach them. Basically what this means is you can always follow the same rule of sid v, subject, indirect, direct, and verb, but you also have the option, if there is an infinitive or if there is a gerund, and a gerund is a word that ends in ando or yendo, like bailando, colgando, escribiendo, all those kind of words. So on the left side, you see something normal. Indirect, then direct, and then verb. Me los vas. Indirect, direct, verb. There's no subject, but the subject would be tú me los vas a pedir. However, when you have the infinitive pedir, like you are going to order, you can actually attach. As long as you have an infinitive like pedir, you can attach. And you could put the indirect and then the direct. Vas a pedirmelos. Notice you're going to have to add an accent to the stressed vowel, which in this case is the third to last syllable. Vas a pedirmelos. You are going to order for me them. Or if we were going to use a gerund with estás pidiendo, you are ordering at this very moment. Me los estás pidiendo. For me, them, you are ordering. Just like always on the left side, sid v, subject, indirect, direct, and then verb. Or on the right side, you also have the option of attaching them again. You do not have to attach. You can just stick to the normal sid v and put them out front if you want to avoid the confusion or the accent trouble. But again, the stressed vowel in this situation, the strong E, which is actually 4 syllables back, needs to carry an accent. If you don't want to remember accents, just stick to the normal sid v. But you may see pedirmelos or pidiendomelos in writing or in songs or in speech all the time. So some examples. Puedes llevar el té a esas mujeres. First of all, el té becomes lo. Esas mujeres becomes les. However, we can't les lo, so we say lo. And we attach them on. Puedes llevárselo. Can you bring to them it? Can you take the T to the women? Can you take it to them? And of course, we have an accent on our stressed A. Llevárselo. Now that we've covered pronouns, direct and indirect, and double object, we have to remember that there also are reflexive verbs. So you have direct on the top left, indirect on the top right, and then reflexive. Those are actions that you do to yourself. Like I shower myself, you shower yourself, he, she showers herself. Me ducho, te duchas, se duchan. Now that we know a little bit about pronouns and have a nice background of it, we have to now figure out how are we going to relate these to the commands that we just learned. And this is the ultimate goal of the chapter here. Some examples that we saw before of direct, indirect, and now reflexive verbs in everyday sentences. Los pongo, I put them. Le escribí, I wrote to her. And los chicos se acuestan, they put themselves to bed. Those are regular sentences, but if we wanted to command people to do those things, like put them on the desk, write her a letter, or go to bed, boys, we're going to do it a little bit differently. Where do we put the pronouns when we form commands? It depends on if it's affirmative or negative. When I say affirmative, I mean a positive. And the great thing about the word affirmative is it makes an alliteration. When we have affirmative commands, we attach the pronoun to the end of the verb. You do not have a choice. You have to attach the pronoun to the end of the verb if it is a positive command. So for example, llévenos al supermercado. Bring us to the supermarket or the grocery store. Notice here, lleve is an usted command, means bring, lleve. And then we just attach nos to the end of it. Pongan means put. It's an ustedes command. Pónganlas en la mesa. Put them on the table. Or the las is just chunked onto the end of the word. Comprémosle a Eva leche en la tienda. Let's buy her milk in the store. Where le refers to Eva, and we just attach it on. The big thing that students will notice is that when a pronoun is attached to an affirmative command of 2 or more syllables, the stressed vowel carries an accent. If you attach one pronoun, you count 3 syllables back and put it on the strong vowel. So in the command llevenos, there are 3 syllables, so you count 3 syllables back. Llevenos. And you can hear the emphasized ye in the word. Llevenos. Pónganlas. Comprémosle. And you can hear the word have a natural stress, and that's where you put the vowel. So always count 3 syllables back from the end. If we are going to use a reflexive nosotros command, for example, let's get up or let's stand up, we need to remove the S, because if you remember, to create levantar as a nosotros command, it'd be levantemos with a flipped ending. And because it's reflexive and affirmative, the nos is attached to the end. However, it sounds a little funny to say levantemos nos. It's too many S's. So what they actually do is they get rid of that S and they just kind of chunk it onto the end. Levantémonos. Let's get ourselves up. And then the most famous example, vamos, our positive nosotros command for ear, and then nos would mean, comes from irse. Instead of saying vamos nos, we could say vámonos, and notice 3 syllables back on the strong vowel, well, the only vowel, we add an accent. So vámonos comes from vamos nos, except the S is taken out and chunked down to the end. Remember, these are all positive commands, so we're attaching and adding accents. If the command is a negative, meaning we're telling people not to do something, whether it's you, usted, ustedes, or nosotros, we put them before the verb and after the no. So, no le venda esta camisa a Juan. Don't sell him this shirt. No lo probemos. Let's not try it, where it refers to something masculine and it's singular. It's not attached, it goes before the verb. No me digas. Don't tell, that's a to command, a negative to command. No digas. No me digas is don't tell me. So affirmative commands we attach, negative commands we put in front of the verb, the pronoun. So if we were looking at levantarse, a reflexive verb, so if we wanted to tell somebody to get up or to not get up, levántate or no te levantes. 3 syllables back on the attached pronoun, levántate. The usted command, notice how the se or the te changes to a se because it's usted, not a to command. Levántese or no se levante. Levántense is an ustedes command. No se levanten. Get up, don't get up. Then let's get up and let's not get up like you've already seen. Levantémonos, no nos levantemos, where the S in levantémonos from levantemos nos is taken out. Arreglarse, arréglate or no te arregles. Arréglese, no se arregle. Arréglense, no se arreglen. And arreglémonos or no nos arreglemos. Get up or get ready, don't get ready. And let's get ready at the end. Or let's not get ready. No nos arreglemos. Notice how we're forming our commands and then attaching pronouns if it's positive, or putting the pronoun, the reflexive pronoun, before the verb if it's negative. So, for example, pass me the recorder. Pásame el grabador. Pass me the recorder. 3 vowels back on the A in pásame. Tell it, meaning from la cita, dila a Enrique. Dila a Enrique. Tell it to Enrique. Notice, there's not 3 syllables in the word dila, there's only 2, so no accent is necessary. Don't get up. No te levantes, just like the example we saw before. Negative command, so we put the reflexive pronoun before the negative command. We have a flipped to-form ending from levantes. Now we have some double object pronouns. When you're attaching double, or when you have double object pronouns, it works just like sid v. Subject, indirect, direct, and then verb. And remember, le, referring to him, is changed to se, because we can't lelos, we can only selos. No celos de. Don't give them to him. Tell me it. The command for decir in the to command is di, and because we have a positive commands, we're going to attach all of the pronouns. Di me lo. Di me lo. Tell me it. Or tell it to me if you want to think of it that way. In this situation, because we've attached 2 pronouns, we now have 3 syllables, which means we can count 3 syllables back, and we need to put an accent on di me lo. Notice we have an indirect object pronoun coming before the direct, just like in sid v. I comes before d. Sid v. And same thing down here. Indirect object pronoun comes before the direct object pronoun. Hopefully that helped a little bit with pronouns, whether direct, indirect, or reflexives, and how you attach them to positive commands, or how you stick them out in front of negative commands. Come see me if you have any questions.